Rev up your engines. Okay, today you're going to buy a used car. You want to check a bunch of stuff. So we're going to take a used car that was just purchased and show you how to check it out to make sure you don't have any problems. And the owner of this car hopes I don't find any problems because they've already bought it. So don't put the cart before the horse. Normally you want to check it out before you buy. Well, to begin with, 90% of buying a used car is buying the right used car. This is the Toyota RAV4. As of 2020, they sold 10 million, so now they probably sold 15 million of them. They're their biggest seller. They sell the heck out of these things. And this particular one was made in Canada. Just like my Matrix. They do a good job building them. And it's an all-wheel drive. Now, you don't necessarily need all-wheel drive. Some people like them, some people don't. But Toyota has a pretty bulletproof all-wheel drive system. Now, you're going to pay a whole bunch more for an all-wheel drive vehicle if you buy it new. But they bought it used and they got a good price. You can always get a better price on a used fancier car. This is an XLE, right? I have had many customers lately, they won't buy a new one, they'll buy a used one because they said the new luxury one is $56,000. And we can get a used luxury one for 20, 30 grand less than that. So that's not a bad idea since Toyotas tend to last forever. We're going to go through the whole thing. Basically, when you're looking at a used car, make sure the tires aren't worn strange, have weird ridges. This doesn't. You can stick your hand in here. You can see that's a little over 3 fingers. Then you go to the other side. And what do we have here? A little over 3 fingers. So it hasn't been crushed in. And do it on the back, too. It came from Texas. They bought it used. That's a very good thing because they don't rust. My Matrix spent most of its life in Texas. It has no rust on it. It's living in Massachusetts now, so the one thing that they're going to have to worry about is rust from the salt on the road. I'm going to look under there because you never know. Maybe they lived on the ocean in Corpus Christi and drove in the salt. I don't know. But generally a Texas car is pretty good. So take a look under and we'll look all around. Solid. Yeah, this is from Texas, not on the coast. So that's a really good thing. And you can see when you look at the brakes, that's just a little superficial rust. If this had been a Massachusetts car its whole life, instead of coming from Texas and being sold in Massachusetts, you would have seen up front the rotor, the hub would have been coated with rust. My son's Corolla that he's got in Massachusetts, hey, when it was 3.5 years old, the front rotors broke apart. They were all rusted. So if you're going to have a car like this up north, it will behoove you, if you want to make it last forever, to get yourself a pressure washer with hot water in it. Get one of those rollers, rinse it off at least once a week to get that salt off, or it will self-destruct. You don't want to rot away a car. And when you're looking for one, if you already see it rotted like that, walk away. Don't buy that car. Look for another car. But this came from Texas, so you don't have to worry about it. There is no rust on the bottom. Oh, look under the hood. You see an ultra reliable 2.5 inline 4. Now you see corrosion, but aluminum corrodes like that, especially when it's in a humid atmosphere. Aluminum doesn't rust, but it pits. And so, even though it was in Texas, it pits because, guess what? It's really humid in Texas, at least most of Texas. So this makes me think this was probably a Houston car or something. It certainly wasn't one in El Paso where it's dry as heck, but that superficial stuff doesn't mean anything. It's a typical Toyota. You can see practically everything is original. Alternator, brake system. At some point in time, this car was in a wreck because this has been replaced here. A good job fixing it, so we really don't care. As long as it's been fixed good. He didn't say it had any particular rattles or anything out there, but this side here has been hit. A real way you can tell is, see this? They don't paint those at the factory. And you can see it's been taken out and put on, it's been painted. I'd say about half of the cars I check out used have been in some kind of a wreck. Minor wreck, fender bender, but since it's all plastic, they had to replace all that crap. You can see the new stuff inside. But it's not a deal breaker at all because it's just kind of a fender bender. Now, if you would have looked at the tire and that tire was all worn on evenly, well, then you'd know, hey, maybe the frame's bent. Don't buy the car, right? These are all perfectly clean, perfectly worn. So it was probably just a fender bender and they had to replace all this plastic crap. And they did a pretty good job. And it would have been a while ago, too, because the new parts have bug splatter on them and I don't smell fresh paint. And here's a real giveaway. if you're looking at a used car, and this is 10 years old, and it smells of fresh paint, my idea is just walk away. If you smell fresh paint, you know, it's just been fixed. And there's a lot of guys out there that'll buy a wrecked car that was told by an insurance company, then they quick get it fixed up as cheap as they can and then sell it out. So if it smells, and it kind of smells like bananas, and you smell that fresh paint, maybe not buy that used car. Now as we go inside, I like the fabric chairs because they hold up. Look, these things are 10 years old. They still look like new. It's got a nice interior. You can see, for a 10-year-old car, low mileage, 92,856 miles. Has a sunroof if you want. Check it out. The old school dash. These are integrated. They look nice. These aren't those new ones that Toyota, no one knows who advised them, have those ugly screens that go up to the windscreen, and it just looks horrible. This looks like it was designed for the car. So let's start it out, and yes, it's old to show it has a key. I would rather have a key than a keyless. And of course, it's a Toyota. It starts right up. And you saw, this is an all-wheel drive version. You can shift it manually if you want, up and down, or just leave it and drive. It's Toyota's all-wheel drive system where it adjusts what powers it gives to each one. Normally it'll be more front-wheel drive bias. It does it itself. You don't have to mess around with it. You can turn the traction control off. You see a little sign says track off. The car's got a few things for the speakers and a phone, but not too much on the steering wheel. But it's a nice size steering wheel. Goes well with the car. So here we go. We got it hooked up. Keys turned on. Already detected it. Standalone diagnosis. Now it's decoding the VIN. And it shows it's a RAV4 2013 2EREFE engine. And it doesn't have a smart key, so we'll put without smart key. Do a full topology scan. And while it's scanning it, we'll look around. Everything's still in excellent shape. Armrest isn't worn, seats are in good shape, everything works, it should work. It's got the fake carbon fiber here. It's not real carbon fiber, they just made it look like it. Lower high power, so high voltage, I see that all the time. We're gonna erase that too. I notice it's got an interstate battery. The battery's been replaced. You get low voltage, it'll trip that code, you replace the battery, the code is still there. You need a fancy machine like this to erase it, so it didn't come back. So we'll go to the AC. Refrigerant shortage. Well, it's right about that. He paid them to fill it up with refrigerant. But again, they did not reset the code. And the machine will remember it forever until you erase it. That's the thing. A lot of guys, they don't know what they're doing when they're working on cars. So that mechanic obviously didn't know. He didn't erase it, so I'm erasing it now. This one is a BCM. We'll see what squirrely code that is. It's another tire pressure monitor one, so we really don't care about that. We'll erase that too. And you can see none of them were hard codes. They didn't come back. So we're gonna start it up. And we're going to look at the serious information on this car. Live data for engine and ECT. Here we go, live data. We'll start going through. The mass airflow sensor stable. Battery voltage is good. Look, it's only off 0.02, 0.03. 000 is perfect, so it's only a very tiny amount off. You can see it's 0 here. It's hardly moving at all. It's almost perfect. Everything here is normal. Mileage is real because it's 92,000 miles, which is 149,000 kilometers. So that's all real. So basically everything's hunky-dory on this thing. So here we go. And it's a small camera, but you can see. But I don't trust him, so I'm turning my head. I don't want to run into his Lexus. It's all-wheel drive RAV4, so we're not going to slow down for the big bump. Of course, it's a somewhat small wheelbase, so you're going to feel bumps. It's not going to ride like a Cadillac. It's a short wheelbase car, and it's relatively high up in the ground. You don't have to worry about getting stuck either. Now, I like getting good gas mileage, so you can see it's in eco mode. All right, here we go. We'll give it some gas. And hey, even in eco mode, it's got some zip to it. A great used car, saved a bunch of money. No rust because it came from Texas. And yeah, the stupid tire pressure sensors are going out, but I mean, you want to spend all that money changing them, just get a tire pressure gauge on it. It shifts fine. It still's got plenty of acceleration, even in eco mode. You want to save some money, and maybe you say, I got to get an all-wheel drive vehicle. If you can find one in this kind of shape for a low price like that, hey, have a guy like me check it out. You know, I didn't find anything wrong. Now you know what kind of stuff you want to check out. Don't be afraid, because there's some codes on it. If they're codes like I showed, they weren't hard codes. They didn't mean anything. People worked on the car, didn't reset anything as things wore out. And of course, since it was in a wreck in the front, that makes total sense. Obviously, that was shorted out in the wreck, and they did fix it. It works now, but they never reset the code. And the computers, they're kind of like elephants in these modern cars. They never forget. Make sure it's not rusted. If you can find a vehicle like this used, hey, you're going to save a ton of money. And with like 90,000 miles, this thing's got probably 200,000-300,000 miles more life in it. So why not buy used and save a ton? Because you're going to have a hard time finding an all-wheel drive RAV4 for a decent price. All the dealers I see are marking them up 5-10 grand. If you want a RAV4 hybrid plug-in, you got to wait sometimes over a year for them. Why not just go conventional, little simpler technology, because it's 2013 and I know this will last. As for the new dynamic force stuff Toyota has with dual fuel injection, the jury's still out. What happens when they're 10, 15 years old? Maybe they'll have problems. These don't. Why not go with something that's proven versus something that you're kind of rolling the dice with? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.